The night was supposed to be ordinary. A simple trip to the movies, a few laughs, maybe some popcorn. But sometimes, the smallest decisions carry the heaviest consequences. Looking back, Emily Stevens would remember that evening not for the film they watched, but for the way her world quietly shifted in the shadows of a dimly lit theater. Emily was 45, a woman who had carefully built a stable, comfortable life. She lived in suburban Chicago with her longtime partner, David Miller, a kind man whose steady presence had been a safe harbor through life's storms. Their days were filled with routine dinners, quiet walks, and the gentle rhythm of companionship. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't thrilling, but it was safe, and for Emily, that had always been enough. Until Jake. Jake Miller was David's 23-year-old son from his first marriage. With his tousled dark hair, athletic build, and restless energy, Jake was the kind of young man who carried a spark into every room he entered. He had a disarming grin and a quick wit that always left Emily smiling, no matter how stressful her day had been. Over the past 2 years, since Emily had stepped into David's life, she and Jake had formed an easy bond, sharing meals, teasing one another, even spending the occasional afternoon watching action movies or comedies together. It had always been innocent, harmless. But on this night, as Emily slid into a seat beside Jake in the back row of a nearly empty theater, something felt different. The smell of buttered popcorn drifted through the air, mingling with the faint sound of previews echoing through the dimly lit room. Emily adjusted her sweater, trying to shake off the strange heaviness that clung to her. The movie, a forgettable thriller with predictable twists, flickered across the screen, but her attention was anywhere but the plot. She was far too aware of the young man sitting beside her. Jake's arm brushed against hers as he reached for the popcorn bucket between them. It was nothing, a fleeting touch, but the warmth of his skin lingered on hers longer than it should have. She could have shifted away, created space, broken the moment. But she didn't. Instead, her heart began to race with a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. Emily's breath caught when his hand grazed hers. At first, it could have been an accident. But then his fingers stilled just for a moment before continuing, as though testing her reaction. She told herself not to look at him, not to encourage what she already felt simmering beneath the surface. But when she dared to glance sideways, she found his gaze fixed on her, dark and intense, a half-smile tugging at his lips. The world beyond that theater seemed to vanish. The movie, the audience, even her partner waiting at home, all of it blurred until only Jake remained. The closeness, the unspoken tension, was intoxicating. Dangerous. By the time the credits rolled, Emily's pulse was unsteady, her thoughts tangled in knots she couldn't untie. The walk to the car was silent, the crisp Chicago night air cooling her flushed cheeks. Jake didn't speak, and he didn't need to. His presence beside her said enough. Something had shifted between them, something that couldn't be undone. A week later, her phone buzzed with a text. It was from Jake. "Movie this Friday. Got one I think you'll like." Emily stared at the message for a long time, her thumb hovering over the screen. She should have said no. She should have ended this before it became something more. But instead, she typed a single word that sealed her fate. Sure. That Friday, they sat once again in the back row of a half-empty theater. But this time, the air between them was thick with expectation. Jake's hand found hers almost immediately, his fingers lacing through hers with a quiet confidence. Emily's chest tightened as she felt herself lean toward him, her body betraying the alarm bells ringing in her mind. The movie played on, scenes of passion and betrayal flickering across the screen as though mocking her restraint. When Jake's hand slid up her arm, leaving a trail of fire in its wake, she turned to him. "Jake," she whispered, her voice trembling. His response was quiet but certain. "I can't stop thinking about you." Her world tilted in that moment. She could have pulled away, could have reminded him of the line they were about to cross. But instead, she leaned in. Their lips brushed in a tentative kiss that quickly deepened, the theater around them fading into nothingness. It was reckless, it was wrong, but it was undeniable. The days that followed were a blur of glances, stolen moments, and the unbearable weight of secrecy. In David's home, they moved like actors on a stage, smiles carefully practiced, conversations meticulously controlled, while beneath the surface, desire simmered. One night, after dinner, Jake appeared in the kitchen as Emily stirred a pot of soup. His voice was low, casual, but his eyes told a different story. "We could watch something later," he said. Her heart stuttered. She knew what he meant. And when she nodded, she knew she was agreeing to more than just a movie. Later that evening, with David asleep upstairs, Emily and Jake sat on the couch, the flicker of the television casting shadows across the room. The movie was nothing more than background noise. Jake's hand brushed hers, deliberate and steady. He leaned closer, whispering words that left her breathless. "This isn't just a game, is it?" Emily closed her eyes, her voice barely audible. "No." That night, in the silence of the living room, they crossed a line that could never be redrawn. Their secret became a storm, dangerous, consuming, yet impossible to resist. Every stolen glance, every touch, every whispered word pulled them deeper into a bond they both knew could destroy everything. For Emily, the guilt was crushing, but the connection she felt was undeniable. Jake saw her, wanted her, in a way she hadn't felt in years. And as the days turned into weeks, the weight of their choices grew heavier. Emily knew the truth would surface eventually, that secrets like this never stayed buried. But in the quiet of those stolen nights, with Jake's hand in hers, she wasn't ready to let go. Because sometimes, even when you know the ending will break you, the story is too powerful to walk away from.